Atyani, one of the times that we talked, you were reflecting on being a principal, and I was talking about the fact that whatever the statistics are, young people spend a good amount of their time, and there's a good number of staff who are not in classrooms and are not teachers. So when you think about whether it's on the soccer field, it's in the cafeteria, it's in the counselor's office, the library, you're on the buses, you spend a lot of time in settings that are not those formal academic classes. And you have a lot of people in the building who are not those formal academic teachers. So we talk about learning happens everywhere, and we talk about the ecosystem, but how do we bring those people in and leverage them in this conversation? And how do we speak to Carlo's definition of educator, which is, somebody who's got something relevant to teach me and is going to take the time to get to know me? Are we missing something by not paying attention to the rest of those people and the rest of that time in the building?
We absolutely are, Karen. In that conversation, I remember thinking, wow, philosophically, I believe that every part of this child's day is important, and that's why experiential learning is important, and things like advisory are important, and all these structures that we create. And the aha moment I had was in the student success team space, or I guess today we would call them, multi-tiered systems of support. And when a child is struggling either academically or social emotionally, the team assembles and we sit down and we involve the parent and we come up with a plan. And how even though I was philosophically aligned, it never really occurred to me to say, maybe this student has a coach or a Playworks supervisor or instructional aide who, is in the back of the classroom sorting things and making small talk with this student and knows them really well. It never occurred to me to look for those adults and include them in the conversation about what might be happening and how we might craft a plan that was holistic and grounded in a holistic understanding of who the child was and what some of the issues are that we need to support them with in order to, address the concerns. And that's such a small but massive shift. It's an existing structure that's in the vast majority of schools in this country, and it's not doing anything fancy. It's just saying, I have to know who knows this child outside of the academic setting and include them in this structure and really value and center and privilege their wisdom and their ideas to support the child holistically.
So Carlo, when you think about school and you think about the places you are when you're not in those core academic classes and you think about the other adults, what comes to mind? Is there room there for us to really identify and lift up those places and those people in a way that could enhance your learning and the learning experiences of your peers?
Yeah, definitely. I think that when I was younger, when I needed more help and work on my dyslexia, that actually the person who was helping me with that was actually, I feared her. She was actually quite negative. And, I think that also will affect, I think we undervalue those relationships, as we're saying here too. And, that can actually take a negative effect on somebody when trying to get that extra help. And I think for that whole year, I really disliked, reading and learning, and that I think that if we can do the opposite, and that's really my goal here at NTC, is to help improve those relationships and create, instead of fearing relationship with that person, a relationship where the person looks up on that person and wants to strive to be, more like them, I think is a key, or just to, really enjoy that relationship so that, that person wants to start, instead of fearing them, creating and helping themselves after school and really trying to boost themselves back up to the same level than their peers. So.
Carlo, I'm listening to you and I'm like, you keep saying fear, fear, fear. And I said fear earlier when I was talking about why I didn't enjoy math as a young person. And Karen, coming back to this, well, what does it mean to humanize and why do we have to do that with educators? When you think about the atmosphere in schools, and particularly schools where the community is under stress, there's so much fear. The teacher fears the principal fears the school's chief or the school board, the school fears the parents fear the school, there's so much fear swirling around. And what you just said, finding those adults that likely are not in the classroom that you look up to. I was hearkening back to how many students I had who loved the PE teacher or loved the art teacher. And I think part of what was underneath that love for them was less of the rigor, and rigor used negatively in this sense, that produces that fear. And then if we link that to learning science, we know that when we're in a state of fear, we are not able to create the optimal environment for learning and really meet our full potential. And so, just putting all of that together, that's really, for us at New Teacher Center, part of what we're trying to push against is teaching as human exchange among all of the human beings that come together to shape human experience in this way. And how do we begin to privilege and value that as much as we do all of the technical components that are also a part of school?
I think it's an ambitious goal, and Carlo, I really appreciated your raising the fear question issue, not just because it's really important, and then Atyani, you expanded on it, but also because what you raised is when we're thinking about training and supporting adults, if we don't think about those other people, then it's left to chance whether the experience you have with them is good or bad. Because if we just basically have not declared that experience important, you can go have a terrible experience with the person who's trying to coach you in reading, and then you bring that anxiety back into the classroom. But those kinds of things happen. And so this idea of really, let's come back to, do we broaden some of this language? In order to humanize teaching, do we have to talk about just humanizing experiences? In order to empower adults, do we really just in order to sort of, empower, do we really need to think more broadly about really empowering all the adults and being explicit about who they are? One of our colleagues, Ron Berger from EL Education, had said this very powerful thing. He said, the student culture can never be ahead of the adult culture. So we can talk about climate and culture and all these things, but he basically said, if we haven't really gotten humanity into the group of adults who are supporting young people, they're going to feel that.
Yep.
They're not going to feel that they're walking into a community. I want them to walk into a community in which everybody is not just welcoming in the artificial, we'll all go down the hall and do high fives,
right.
But everybody really is there and present and has had the kind of training and support and interaction with each other to feel that they are that adult community that's supporting. So in some ways it's a bigger goal, but I wonder, as we sort of wrap up our conversation, if both of you can reflect on the fact that, I'll go back to what you said, Aditi, the idea that everything goes back to the teacher. Whatever the fancy things are that we bring in, we ask the teacher to do them. But when you started to name the places and the people that are sort of around that academic content, that instructional spine, there are a lot of them. And if we could charge them, if we could have a broader goal of talking about humanizing experiences, It might make the job of the teacher easier. It might mean that students are coming in there or leaving that room with someone else to talk to. So I'm just going to ask you all, as we're sort of wrapping up, to just reflect on this conversation about broadening. The goal is incredible, to really think about how we humanize teaching or humanize experiences, intentional experiences that we're providing for young people, and how we really empower adults who have this broader education role that Carlo said.